Welcome to page 99 of Anatomy Coloring Book. This is Dr. Stephen Harkins. The special senses taste and smell. Of course, taste is also known as gustation. Smell is known as olfaction. And taste, of course, occurs in the tongue. And there are the little bumps on the tongue. They're called papillae. There are the valate papillae, these larger papillae here on the back of the tongue, valate. There are fungiform papillae, which are these medium-sized papillae. They are found all around the tongue, front and back. And filiform papillae. Filiform papillae, which are these little, the tinier bumps on your tongue. Filiform papillae. And here we have an exploded view of vilate papillae. These are the larger ones in the back. And they are characterized by these large, by these valleys, these large valleys, or moats, as they're called, like a moat around a castle, a moat of water. And you can see how deep these moats travel here. And what's curious is inside these moats, deep inside these moats, you see these taste buds. Taste buds. And they're right here. These are your taste buds. And so taste bud. You can see this little canal heading into the taste bud. Here are these little canals from the moat into the taste bud. And here's an exploded view of that taste bud. Here's the canal. Here is the vilate papillae here in red. Here red, of course. Or valate papillae. And it is actually called a pore canal. This is the pore canal. A little hole taking fluid, the food you eat when it's broken down into its smallest form, the chemicals of the fluid seep into the moat, seep down into the moat. Food you eat travels through the pore canal, where it is received and creates an electrical signal on a receptor cell. These are the active receptor cells that actually are responsible for taste and are going to send the signal to your brain and nervous system. And of course, the receptor cell sends its axon down to the nerve fiber. The nerve fiber here, and the impulse goes to the central nervous system for taste. The other cells surrounding are supporting cells here. Supporting cells here, here, here. And then we have another receptor cell, taste receptor cell here within the taste bud. And of course, sending its signal down its axon and joining the other axons to form an actual nerve fiber. The taste buds are actually found in the phthalate papillae and the fungiform papillae, but not in the filiform, not in the tiny filiform papillae. So they are only in the what I've highlighted in red and in blue. Taste buds are found in the moats or the deep cracks of these phthalate and fungiform papillae. The signals from the taste bud here are sent down this nerve, and they reach the brainstem through the cranial nerve 7, the facial nerve, the hypoglossal nerve, and the vagus nerve. And where they are taken to the postcentral gyrus, the sensory cortex of the postcentral gyrus, for sweet, sour, salt, bitter. The food is broken down into small, tiny parts and enters the canal. And the receptor cell is a type of chemoreceptor that that senses the taste through a chemical interaction between the chemicals and the taste bud cells, the receptor cells of the taste bud. Smell or olfaction is a sensation that occurs in the nose or the nasal cavity. Of course, we know the air flows in through the nose on either side of the nasal septum, upward and to the top of the nasal cavity to a place called the cribriform plate. Cribriform plate is part of the ethmoid bone, the ethmoid facial or cranial bone. And there are tiny little holes in the bone, the cribriform plate down here. This hole right here on either side. And on top of the cribriform plate lies what's called the olfactory bulb. The olfactory bulb here. That's the olfactory bulb. And it sends nerve impulses down the olfactory tract, down this way. Here's the olfactory tract. Here's the olfactory bulb. So the olfactory tract is an extension of the bulb, sending the nerve impulse here. These areas of to the frontal lobe of the brain and to the temporal lobe for sensation through to the sensation of smell, which is associated with memory, eating, survival, sexual behavior. The olfactory area is exploded in this view right here. Right here. And here you can see the different parts of the olfactory or the system of smell. First, the olfactory mucosa on the roof of the nasal cavity. This is the substance that is continuous with the nasal mucosa, the lining of the nasal cavity, but it's different. It's not exactly the same. It has some different characteristics. But within it is contained, and you can see the breathing, the path of the air coming up and across the nasal mucosa and into the olfactory mucosa, and you can see that it's rubbing, the air passing through will stimulate the olfactory mucosa, and as the air travels and passes through. And by stimulating the olfactory mucosa, the olfactory gland will be, or the olfactory glands and neurons will be stimulated as well. The olfactory gland here is actually a gland that secretes a little substance in here that travels out, and what it does is it cleans off the receptors of the nasal mucosa and prepares it for the next smell. And it does so by dissolving the former chemicals that were being smelled. So dissolve the previous chemicals, like I said, to get ready for the next smell. And here you can see the actual olfactory neuron here with little cilia, olfactory cilia attached to it. Olfactory cilia and the olfactory neuron itself. The nucleus, the primary neuron. Synapsing here with a secondary neuron in the olfactory bulb. And you can see another here, olfactory neuron with its cilia, picking up the sensations as they fly by. In the nasal, fly by the nasal mucosa or the olfactory mucosa. These first order neurons synapsing again with these second order neurons, which will take the stimulus down the olfactory tract, and as I said, to the frontal lobe and temporal lobe to be perceived by the brain and central nervous system. Now, notice that the olfactory neurons, the axons here, travel upward through this hole in tiny little holes in the cribriform plate. These tiny little holes in the cribriform plate to reach the olfactory bulb and up the olfactory tract to the brain. And of course, the other cells here next to the olfactory neurons are supporting cells. They're not all olfactory cells. They look to be columnar epithelium, epithelia. And this ends the page 99 of Anatomy Coloring Book. This is Dr. Stephen Harkins.